I saw a clip of him really enthusiastically telling the crowd how happy he is to own Soldier Field. And it's really great stuff. He owns the Bucks now, part owner of Soldier Field. So he's got a great career beyond football.
What do you own, Tom? How about upstate New York? You're 32-3. Have you staked a claim on Buffalo yet?
Not yet. Nope. I want to settle for a few things less than that. I'm cool with owning just a few lucky autographs. That's what I'm the owner of.
How about possibly New York City? You're 30-8 against the Jets.
Oh no, I'll just take the color green. I don't need the Jets. I'll just own the color green. I think that's a little bit better.
Fuck you.
What is going on, Jets fans? Episode 35 of the Wednesday Night Podcast. I'm John. I got James and Mike with me tonight. How are you doing, Mike?
What's going on, guys? Man, it feels like it's been forever.
It has been. It does feel like that because it's been a while. James, how are you feeling, man?
Good. Bye week's over. I'm ready for Sunday.
Ready for the pain. Pain to
Well,
Yeah.
depending on who you ask, some people think we're going to win this game. Grant Root, I had to put that on the screen because it made me very upset to see Brady still taking great pleasure in rubbing salt in our wounds. The expression that I used before the stream started was pissing on our grave. I mean, he just doesn't give two Fs about the Jets and the fans' feelings. So, yeah, I hate him. I hate Tom Brady. And yes, I did end the clip well. Perfectly, I would say, actually. Just big time FU Tom Brady. So, anyway.
Can I jump in quick?
Yeah, man.
You want to know what I hated, and I get it. Like the Jets, they deserve probably some of the criticism that they get here and there. They haven't been good in forever, but in that clip too, they ask him if he wants to be like the owner of upstate New York because he's 30-2 against the Bills. Mm-hmm. And then, everyone kind of just clips out, ignores that part completely that he's 30-2 against another team in New York that also is in the AFC East. And it's just like, hey, New York Post article, Tom Brady rips Jets again and nothing about the Bills. He could very well own all of upstate New York just as much as he can own us. And I'm pretty sure they have no playoff wins against him. So that's my fan defensive.
You would think the Giants would protect us because he has a horrible record against the Giants. But
and the playoffs as well. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. And yeah, even the record speaks for itself. The Jets technically have handled Brady better than the Bills, even though they technically have not handled anything with him. But all right, we have got some sort of news. I mean, I don't know how you guys want to take this or not, but Deshaun Watson, the trade rumors have been floated again because this is like the 18,000th time we've seen this and been exposed to it. But it did just, get put out there into the world a couple of hours ago. It's not Pro Football's reporting, but basically they tweeted it out. And it looks like not everybody, but some of the outlets out there are suggesting that he could be traded sometime this week. And it looks like it could be to the Miami Dolphins. And I don't even know if the Texans want Tua, if the rumors are even true. It looks like maybe Washington could be interested. It looks like Denver could be interested in Tua. But we'll stay in the AFC East. And, maybe we've talked about this a little bit before, but right now it looks like, this could be heating up a little bit. So I guess it's worth discussing. I'm going to go to you, James, first. Thoughts on a potential, you can even tell me if you think this will happen or not happen first, but also thoughts on if that did happen, what would you be thinking?
Yeah, so I think it's going to happen. I think I don't know if it's this week. I think probably before the trade deadline. Probably really just because the Texans have to do something with him. They just can't keep paying him, and he's inactive every week. Because it seems like you would think if a team is going to trade for him, what they're going to have to give up, you have to know that this guy is going to be eligible to play. Probably you'd have to feel comfortable beyond this year. It seems like if he were, not in this situation with the Texans, he'd be playing for them, regardless of the legal aspect of it. But you'd probably have to be comfortable that he's okay playing down the line. So I think it's going to happen. I think it's probably going to happen before the trade deadline if it's not this week. I did pick him up on my fantasy team when I saw the report. I have Lamar Jackson, but I did pick him up because then I could just trade him to some team.
Trade bait.
Maybe wants a quarterback. So, but in terms of actual football, real life football, the Dolphins aren't good right now. And that's just the fact of the matter. They thought they were going to be a whole lot better based on the moves they made in the offseason, because now they would have the 3rd overall pick in the draft, but that belongs to Philadelphia. And so I was kind of curious what the trade assets would look like, because it'd probably be a whole heck of a lot easier for them to get it if Houston knew that pick could potentially be in the top 10. But for the Jets, AFC East, just got to keep chugging along. Dolphins aren't very good right now. Not saying that we're very good right now. But if they do get Deshaun Watson and then lose a whole bunch of assets to acquire him, they're already not that great of a football team, so it could put them in a situation where they're not head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about any of that. I think that's a good way to take it. And I agree. I think it will happen. Mike, what are your thoughts? I have some comments I'll get to after you. Thoughts on them. Will it happen? Will Miami be the one that gets him? And thoughts on if it were Miami.
Yeah, I agree. I think you guys, I don't have a lot to add to the likelihood of it happening. It just, if there's any brains in the Texans front office, they have to make a move, for multiple reasons, and all of which you guys hit on. I think I'll just focus on what team is likely to pull the trigger. I think it has to be Miami. Miami's in such a kind of, they're on a launch pad where a lot of the pieces are together for that team, except for the fact that they struggle at the quarterback for consistency. And what better way to do that than to lock up what was the number one free agent going into the offseason? And, man, Brady leaves after 2 decades in our division.
I know where you're going with this.
All of a sudden, all the other teams are dynamite. You got the Bills on the verge of a Super Bowl dynasty. Well, it could be a dynasty like they had back in, the 90s, I guess it was. You got Miami, who's ready to be, the Dolphins of the 70s. You got the Patriots, who are fluttering out there but could do anything on any given day. And then you got us, who continue to struggle in the day-to-day or the year-to-year grind. It's just like, man, I was so looking forward. Even if we weren't competitive initially, like in the first 2 years, I was like, well, we don't have to deal with Brady and the Patriots dynasty, so we got time to kind of, find our feet. I think we'll have top 3, one of the most competitive divisions in football, definitely in the AFC, without a doubt. So, it just is, I guess, who makes the most sense? It has to be Miami. Miami would be crazy to pass up on this with all the weapons they have. But man, what a sucky situation for us with just getting rid of Brady after 2 decades. Now we got 3 powerhouse teams.
Yeah. And it hasn't happened yet, so it may not happen. There are other teams apparently in the mix. Frankie from Flatbush shared that Carolina apparently is in the discussions, according to The Athletic. I would say Carolina definitely ought to be for a myriad of reasons. We won't go down that path. But yeah, I think that Miami makes sense. You point out a really good point, Mike. They have, whatever you want to say about Miami, their weapons are quite good. Gesicki is really nice at tight end. They've got Waddle, who looks really good. I wasn't as high on him as some of the other receivers, but he's looking really good. They have Devontae Parker, who's just like another dude on that roster, but he's a really good football player. So that could be pretty dynamite in Miami if they have Deshaun. So I don't want to comment too much on it because it hasn't happened, but that would definitely suck. That would definitely slow our arrival or hope for our arrival for the New York Jets. So, all right, we got Grant Rood, and he says that the demand at draft time would be much higher. Especially considering the quarterback class. And yes, the quarterback class right now isn't looking very good at all. Rattler was like the guy that everybody was kind of hyping up, and he has Shatlered the bed. Not looking too good. And I think did he get benched?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so he's kind of like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he got benched, and it doesn't look like he's going to be playing for Oklahoma anytime soon with the way the quarterback played that replaced him. So, yeah, he's probably going to be a transfer portal type of guy.
Yep. And he's going to need that. He's going to need another opportunity. Should not come out this year by any means. All right. We have apparently he's already hit the transfer portal. I haven't heard that. I believe it, though. All right. We are going to move to we only have 2 mailbags, so we'll get into Jets Patriots stuff pretty quickly here tonight, which is nice. Somebody that we have not heard from in a dog's age, Straight Fire. He left us a little mailbag, and he said he was commenting on the picture that I posted of my daughter and I, and he said that I feel like the Patriots are going to beat the brakes off the Jets. I don't want to talk too much about it. I don't feel great about the game coming up as far as prospects for winning. It doesn't mean that we can't be competitive, but I'm a little bit nervous going into this football game. And then our last one, and I think this one's interesting. He says, this one is just what do you think the keys to beating the Patriots will be this week, and do you think it will be more difficult than our first matchup? Because now the Patriots have more film to digest of the Jets. They have a great coaching staff. I think we can all agree there. What are your thoughts? What would be some keys to that game? We don't have to go too crazy on that because we're going to talk about that later, but will it be easier or harder than the first matchup? Mike, you can go first on that one. Harder or easier?
I think it would be easier. And the reason I say that is because this is just me, and I know we're going to get into it. I think the Jets needed this bye week so badly. And it's not necessarily the players need it. Obviously, we were suffering with injuries, and it sucks because I was just reading up. It looks like CJ is still day-to-day, and I don't know if you guys you might know more about that situation, but with his hamstring. But anyway, it wasn't so much that the players needed it, although I think that's beneficial given our injury reports. But the coaching staff, particularly with Salah's last message was he was going to use the 2 weeks to really kind of figure out what's going on, particularly in the first half of our football games. I don't think the Patriots are going to bring – I think they'll bring a different look. They usually do, but I don't think it's going to be that much different. I think this game will be won or lost on whether the 2 weeks that the Jets had really pays off. I really do think that that's going to be the bigger telltale sign on how we do. If we don't come out in the first half and really start scoring, or at least put up at least one touchdown, then I think we're in trouble. And what would I want to see? I mean, the run game was working against the Patriots. I mean, Mike Carter, if I remember correctly, he had a great game. The defense was holding up until they just ran out of gas. So it's not like it's not like Jeff had a hard time how to work against Mac, and the run game was working. It's just like, Zach had a bad game. That was one of his worst games, I guess you could say. I think it was 4 interceptions, 3 interceptions, something like that.
4.
So the recipe to me is defense just has to do what they did last time. Obviously, LaFleur has to look out for a new defensive blitz look or something, whatever Belichick's going to do. But really, the game's going to be won or lost on the run game being consistent and on Zach's performance. I really do think that if they were able to fix and come out and fix our first half jitters, I really do think that we have a better shot winning this game than we did the first one. That's my honest opinion.
I don't hate that take. James, thoughts on if it will be a harder matchup this time around versus the first one?
I'm going to go with a harder matchup, just because there is more tape out there. There is more film out there. But Belichick, to no one's surprise, outsmarted Mike LaFleur the first time around. And now I feel like he has that little brain type of game going on with Mike LaFleur here of Mike LaFleur, that first game, he prepared as though the Patriots and Bill Belichick, their defensive game plan was going to be, we're going to blitz the heck out of Zach Wilson and play man coverage, cover zero, just kind of almost exactly what they did against Sam Darnold in that ghost game a couple years back. And Mike LaFleur never adjusted. They sat back in a zone. There were, 2 or 3 guys on some plays going out for routes, and the Patriots have 7 guys back in a zone in coverage, and there's nowhere to go with the football. And like Mike said, we were able to run the football, and the reason being was that they were sitting back in 2 high coverages, having 7 guys, 6, 7 guys back there in a zone. It gave us the look to be able to run the football. We just didn't stick with it. And so I think it's going to be harder, but Mike LaFleur can make it easier if he kind of goes into the game with kind of almost a game plan and the backup game plan, right? A sheet that says, here's what we're going to do if they do, he's not going to know what Belichick's going to do. It's going to be a complete surprise come game time. So you have to be prepared for everything. So it's either, hey, they're going to sit back like they did last time. We're going to run the football till we force their hand and to do something else, then we'll adjust to that. And if they want to sit back and that, if they want to sit and play the man coverage, we'll go with the game plan we had last time. And Zach's just going to have to be better, making decisions with the football, making better throws. So I think it's going to be harder, but I'm hoping Mike LaFleur is ready to kind of make it easier on the offense.
Yeah, for sure. Well said. I would agree with a little bit of both of you. I do think that I do think this will be a harder matchup. We didn't even mention the fact that it's on the road in New England. That right there makes it a little bit trickier. I don't want to get too much into what will be the keys to the game, because we will get into that later. But I think you guys just hit a lot of really good things. Like, the film is definitely a thing. I think Belichick and even Josh McDaniels are going to learn from the last game that they played. But I think, Mike, you pointed it out first. They're going to probably change it up a little bit. They're not going to do the exact same thing that they did. So adjustments, like James said, is going to be critical in the game. I agree with what Mike said too. If we are not getting going, and I'm not expecting some explosion of offense early in the game, because clearly that's like an area of, they need to learn, and they still need to develop that. It's not just the players, it's also the coordinator and the coaching staff. So if they can't get something going in the first half, it's going to be a really, really hard game to come back from too. That's the other thing. We've been coming back in every single game. We've been behind in every game. So even the Titans game, I think we were down 9-0 or something, or 10-0 in that game. So it's just really, really hard to do that in the NFL. All right. Let's see. We got a couple of comments. Robbie Oaks says, I want another good game from the O-line, and I need to see GVR play better regardless. So, yeah, we all are kind of over him, but at the same time, it would be sure nice if he could just, step up a little bit and just play a little bit better. Tevin Coleman needs to get more touches. Hope they figured that out over the bye. Phase Montgomery out. We don't have a Montgomery. I'm not sure who you mean. We had Ty Montgomery. What's up, Mike?
No, I didn't mean to cut you in there. I was just gonna say, I was a real SOB on Tevin Coleman when we picked him up, and I'm still not a fan. But what I would say is, I think it's a Michael Carter show. I really do. I do think that Tevin Coleman has more pep in his step than definitely Ty Johnson, and from the little bit amount of Michael P. Ryan that we've seen. Although, is it P. Ryan injured? I don't know. I haven't looked at what the status is.
He's just not playing. He's not on the active game day roster.
But I did want to just chime in and just give Tevin Coleman a little props, because when he has had the ball, he does have some more explosiveness than I thought, given his age. And I still think it's a Michael Carter show. I wouldn't, but if I want to see him rotate the most with carries, it should be Tevin. So I just wanted to, for the Tevin Coleman fans out there, here you heard it here. Use my words.
I do like Tevin Coleman, and Vern corrected himself. He said he meant Ty Johnson. So yeah, that's one of the surprises for me this season. Ty Johnson really he didn't take that step forward that I kind of expected him to. But yeah, I think that a mixture of the running game, like the running backs, needs to be involved in this football game. Try to just continue to try to find and that's the thing, that's the problem. Like you hear a lot of coaches will say, ride the hot hand. We need to find the hot hand. Because right now there's really not a clear RB1. I think Mike Carter has shown a little bit more, but he's also had more opportunities. Giving these other guys some looks to find out who can, find the running lanes and make some plays. I think that's going to be important. And we got our free Kenny Yeboah, please.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that's going to happen. Although I think the injury to Croft I read is a little bit more significant than we thought. Apparently it's a back injury, and Saleh said that it's not an easy injury to deal with. So. All right, we will move on. We'll go to our last. Excuse me. We'll go to our last mailbag. Oh, we already read that one. I apologize. Sorry, that was the last one. My bad. We will move on to the bye week. Guys, keep loading up the comments, and we will read your questions and your takes for this upcoming game. We'll read this one because he just posted it. How can Yeboah not be a better option than Griffin? Well, kind of like how Elijah Moore maybe isn't quite in sync yet with Zach and still learning the offense. I think it's very similar, circumstance with Yeboah. You can't expect a rookie, especially an undrafted guy, to come in and be able to perform at a higher level than a veteran, even though it might not be a veteran of high quality. I would say even Griffin, I think, might be the better bet. I don't know. Maybe I'm too low on Yeboah, but that's just my take personally. I know there's a lot of Yeboah supporters, though. All right. We will go to the bye week. And one of my big questions coming into tonight that I wanted to hear from both of you and from the chat as well, what are we hoping they changed? We talked about how we hope they made some adjustments during the bye week, but I think that it can't just be like random things like benching players and like putting new people in the lineup. I think is a good thing. But what specifically did they need to change coming out of this bye week? And again, I feel like in years past where we've had these poor starts and dating back to the 2002 season where they went 2-5, there were big time changes made after that terrible start. Like they started to change things up. They called different plays. They put different people in the lineup. And I feel like we need to see that. It should be very apparent in this first game after the bye that they've made a lot of changes. So James, I will go to you first. What sort of changes are you hoping and expecting to see from this team in week 7?
Yeah, so I want to see, and let me know if this is kind of like on par with kind of, I guess, maybe not the right answer, but something kind of you're looking for. I want to see guys get like force fed, if that makes any sense. Like I want to see guys that should have the football in their hands, get the football in their hands in space, regardless of the situation, and have it be done early. Maybe the answer that I'm looking for here is a better game plan to get them started. So maybe over the bye week, hopefully maybe they reevaluated how they came up with their game plan in terms of what they were going to do to start the games off. And I think really the answer to that has to be some of these guys have to get the ball early. You have to get into a rhythm, just like the quarterback, right? Just like the quarterback, if things aren't going good to start off, right? Just like the same for the wide receiver. If you don't see a target till the second half, you're kind of you haven't gotten going a little bit. So whether that's I'm fine with, honestly. This might sound stupid, but I'm fine with a multitude of guys being force fed, whoever it is they decide, because I think that the talent is there. Whether it's Corey Davis, I think, he's shown that he can play, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's had his bumps and bruises, but, the Elijah Moore, got to get the ball in his hands in space. I'm fine if they decide that person's Jamison Crowder, who we're going to get the ball out of, quick in the slot. I'm fine if they decide to say, hey, let's get Denzel Mims a downfield target early in the game, or, something over the middle like we saw him do late. Like, I think there are plenty of guys, and my mind always goes back to, and someone here could correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of really going off of memory, but late in that Atlanta game, it was 3rd and 11, I think. Game is essentially on the line, and we have a Ryan Griffin on the field, and Elijah Moore is on the sideline. And so things like that need to change. Whatever you need to do to adjust and say, hey, listen, this was our game plan going in, or, we've done this in the past. Hey, let's adjust and make sure our playmakers are out there in critical situations. And I think how they get into that rhythm is force feeding some of these guys really early in the game.
All right, that's a good answer. You see that with a lot of teams that have really, really good players. They give them the ball early and often. And I know this is going to sound really stupid as well, but if you're playing a game of Madden, you get the ball in the best player's hands. You don't feed the 68 overall player on your bench the rock. You get these other guys involved. And so, it's just kind of common sense. We got to get the best players the ball early and often and try to make it simple. I think you said that earlier. Try to get the ball in their hands in very quick and easy ways. All right, Mike, what are your thoughts? What needs to change? Lineup adjustments, philosophical changes, coaching staff changes. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm glad that James went first because, I was obviously we've been on a 2-week hiatus and then the Jets haven't played. I don't think I hadn't had a chance to hear James really talk to what he was seeing in the film and, what his take on what was,
we will be getting
potentially hindering the Jets in the first halves of our games. I know what each of you are talking about. Force feeding, the term scares me in a way because I know that's not how you guys are intending to use that keyword, but I don't like the use of force feeding because we just have been trying that. I feel like, unfortunately, they're force feeding, I think, predominantly to the same player or the same two players, and that being Corey Davis. And then in a couple games, it was Elijah Moore trying to force feed him, and it just wasn't working. And defensive coordinators were picking up on it. And it was just a nightmare. and so I know what you guys are saying by force feeding, which is you gotta diversify your progressions, and you have to continue to not give up and continue not to be a one-trick pony. I think that's what I take away from it is it can't just be the Corey Davis show. If he's there, great, but Zach particularly has to more than ever this game, he really needs to not give up on the progressions and the way the plays are designed. And then for LaFleur, the play calls have to be they have to be better. I don't know any other way to say that. I mean, where he needs to flood the zone, he needs to flood the zone. Where he needs to take the deep shot, it needs to be a deep shot. And, I'll defer to James on where and when and how badly we've done that in the past. But, I think that's I'll just say this. I think that what I'm looking for is, Keelan Cole and Crowder were either injured or not, invisible in the first Patriots game. With Crowder back, I really do think. I mean, if Elijah Moore is a big part of the offense this weekend, I'm going to be one of the biggest fans for it. But I personally think that Crowder is a big part of whether this passing attack gets off the ground, particularly in the first half. Crowder just brings another element to it. Keelan Cole too, in a different way. But I really think Crowder really breaks up the defense, or has broken up the defenses to where Corey Davis becomes a bigger part of the offense and is positioned to make those big plays. If Mims is in the lineup, oh my gosh, I think that if Mims is out there, then I really do think that, what we're talking about, what both of you are talking about, is part of that is like LaFleur is reading your minds or hearing what your words, because I really do think that if Mims is out there, that tells me they do plan on diversifying the ball and opportunities. But yeah, I do think Crowder to me is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle, I would say, at that point.
Cool. I like that you disagree with us, because that's good. That's important for the show. And I do actually kind of like your take there. Wow, slam the bottle down. Jesus.
Was that loud?
You're like a pirate over there. Yeah, no, I think that was an excellent take. Perhaps that isn't the right mentality that James and I kind of just talked a little bit about. Maybe it is better that they spread it out, make it a little bit more tricky for the opposing the opposing defense to try to figure out, okay, who are they trying to get the ball to? Maybe it's been a little bit predictable, and maybe that's been our problem. So I think that may have been actually one of your best takes in the show's existence. So very nice job, Mike. That was very good. Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic.
No, it was great.
I think that was a very good take. All right, so we've got a couple of comments. Gitmo Bob says, why not show Belichick something that he hasn't seen from the Jets on film yet? Healthy dose of Mims and more, and better O-line play. Make him adjust for a change. Grant Rude, he says, I hope that they change their wide receiver alignments. Outside should be Davis, Cole, Mims. More in the rotation in that order for snap priority. Slot should be Moore, Crowder, and Berrios. I do think they need to try to stop. I know they really want to make Moore into a guy who can play all over the field, and that's fine. I'm glad to hear them that they believe that he can do that. But you know what? He might be just comfortable in the slot for right now. Like, I know they want Mims to know all three of the spots. I know they want all of these guys to know all three of the spots. But maybe it's best right now if a rookie and a second-year wide receiver just has one freaking role, you know? Make it a little bit easier for them to play fast and to just know their role. So I like that take from you, Grant Rude. Just have slot receivers playing in the slot and having our outside guys playing on the outside. I think that's a great... that's how I envision this season actually playing out. I didn't know that they were going to want them to be like playing all over the football field. I don't hate it. I do think that it might be an easier approach for these young kids, though, to just have a role. Robbie Oak, I honestly do want to see Mims and Yeboah in LaFleur in the box, so off the field. I've heard that take before. What are your thoughts on that, guys? I personally don't give two flips, because I feel like if he felt like he would be better served in the box, I think he would just go to it. I think we've seen that before in the NFL where coaches like try out the sideline and then the next week they're right back in the box. Mike, why don't you go first? What do you think about that? LaFleur going to, and if you don't know what he's talking about, basically the coach is off the field and he's on inside those boxes where they can see the whole football field. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person. I'm not going to give you a good football mind behind it. I'll just give you a fan's perspective, since I can talk to that.
It's a fan's show.
I would just say I'm more old school. I do like to see the coordinators on the field. If I think of coordinators who are currently out there, there's a lot of good ones who are in the box, and there's a lot of strategy and a lot of advantages of being in the box where you have that angle, especially being up there with your other offensive support staff and things like that, where you can talk rather than going over to that trailer and talking on the phone, which you see players and coaches do. I just think that to me, I think there's an atmosphere and a presence of being available and accessible when you're on the sideline versus when you're in the box. Again, I think there's multiple ways to it's like a calculus problem. There's multiple ways to win a football game, whether you're up in the skybox or whether you're on the field. Me as a fan, I do like to see the coaches on the sideline, because when the team's sucking in the first half, which is what we've been doing, what are you going to do up in the box? Especially with a rookie quarterback. That I should also preface that. When you have a rookie quarterback and you're not on there, and there's no veteran quarterback to really counsel him when he throws 4 picks, I really feel that that's a lonely position for that rookie quarterback to be, because he's sitting on the bench by himself. Maybe there's a quarterback coach there, maybe there's not. Yeah, in the situation we have, I as a fan, I like to see them on the sideline.
I think you said it best. That is actually what I was going to say is, in that scenario where he's just like completely dogging up and playing badly, he basically is by himself with no coordinator. I mean, he'll have his coaching staff, of course. Like, there will be other coaches that he can talk to, but not his offensive coordinator. All right, James, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's as big of a distinction. I think you're right. If he was like, hey, I'm probably more comfortable in the box, he would have been up there. But there are a plethora of coaches up there, and there is somebody up there, whether that's the quarterback coach or some kind of assistant, who's going to be responsible for relaying kind of the field picture to Mike LaFleur as he's on the sideline. So there is someone that's going to be saying, hey, look, when we're in, a 2x2 with twins or trips, they're coming out in this look. They responded this way to this kind of route combination. So LaFleur's getting it from somebody. I just think the biggest part is I think he would rather be getting that information and being able to communicate with Zach on the sideline rather than seeing it up top and then having somebody else communicate with Zach on the sideline. So I think it's probably a preference thing, but I think ultimately there's not too big of a distinction because he is getting information of kind of the above high bird's eye view kind of deal that's going on the field at the end of it.
Yeah. Interesting take by Robbie Oak, and I do appreciate you submitting that because it's interesting to think about, what would be different or if it could be different, I guess. All right. This is another interesting take here. Vern says, let's let Moore run some Wildcat. It doesn't even have to be Wildcat. To me personally, I would actually just rather see him lined up in the backfield and let him go in motion to different parts of the field, use him as a running back. Again, I think that's something that would be super cool. Like, imagine Mike Carter and Elijah Moore side by side with Zach Wilson in the shotgun. That could be really, really difficult for a team to cover. And again, if you think about it, you've got Carter on the field, Moore on the field. You've got two outside receivers. It could be Cole and Davis, and then Crowder in the slot. So it's like a win-win because you're getting these guys all on the field at the same time. That would be very cool to see. What are your James? You were shaking your head no to the Wildcat.
Yeah, no, the Wildcat because it very much limits your options. I mean, if you're in the Wildcat a number of times, it's probably the number's probably going to be 0 that he's going to throw the ball, and maybe that would work against another team. But I think Belichick would just be like, oh, they're just going to give me this game by doing that. He would basically just eat that up. But I do agree with you, John. I think, getting him in the backfield is great. Maybe just not actually taking the snap.
Mm-hmm. Gitmo comes in with another good comment, and it's good to see you, Gitmo. We haven't seen you in the chat in a while. He says, got to stay away from 3rd and long on defense, which seems to play into opposing offense's wheelhouse. Yeah. I think you could say that for any team, but I think especially in this atmosphere on the road versus Bill Belichick, we definitely need to stay away from those long 3rd down situations. Definitely.
Wait, is he saying we can't be on 3rd and long when we're on defense?
Oh, maybe that is what he's saying. 3rd and long on defense.
We do give up a lot of them.
I misread that. Yeah, he is right. Yes. Sorry, Gitmo. I apologize. Yes. Our 3rd down and long defense has been brutal. The Atlanta game was really bad, and the Titans game even too. We were giving up huge 3rd and long situations over and over again. Grant Rude. We'll get to these comments, and then we're going to do some film breakdown, guys. I hope you guys are excited for that. We haven't had that in a while. Grant Rude says, with the Jets tight end room being as strong as it is, only being 3rd in the league with 2 tight end sets is not enough. Hell, why not go for number 1 with 2 and 3 tight end sets? He's being very sarcastic. Less tight ends is what I think he's trying to say. And yeah, the tight end position. I'm trying to think if there's a worse. Yeah, it's bad. I can't think if there's a worse position group on the team. And I'm having a hard time thinking of one off the top of my head. I know that we need right guard, but as a group, guard isn't completely abysmal because we do have Elijah Vera Tucker. I can't think of a different one. So tight end's pretty bad. We'll just leave it at that. Vern Crowder didn't do dick in London. We overhyped him after the Titans game. Maybe we overhyped him a little bit, but here's the thing, man. He's just a really good slot receiver, and I don't know if we can blame Crowder for his lack of production in that game. Zach had a bad game. We'll keep it 100, as they say, as the kids say. He just struggled, man. He wasn't playing a very good game. Michael Nania of Jets X Factor, he put out there that it was a similar performance as the Patriots game. Not as many interceptions, but as far as like performance on the football field and the analytics that go along with that, it wasn't a good football game for him at all. Let's see. Robbie Oaks defending Crowder. He's a stud. All right, let's keep going.
He probably gets a touchdown in that game. That kind of wide receiver swing out of the not out of the backfield, out of the slot, that Zach basically like threw in the dirt. I don't know what was going on there, but if that's a good throw, I think Jamison Crowder scores a touchdown.
Yep. Right. Yeah, you got to get the ball in their hands, man, and that's the thing. That's been a little bit of a theme for him, even in the Titans game. He could have slammed the door shut with that Griffin wide open touchdown. Just missed it, man. He threw it low. So, all right, let's do a couple more. I'm almost caught up, and then we can get to our breakdown here. Grant Rude's agreeing with you. Please no Wildcat ever for any reason in any situation. No. Gitmo Bob says, hopefully LaFraud. Oof, man, guys are brutal on LaFleur. LaFraud spent his 2 weeks off talking to his brother and daddy Shanahan on how to run this system because it doesn't look like the West Coast offense that I know. He's definitely got to be better. We're not going to defend him completely. The only thing I'll say is just he is a first-timer. He's got to be better. So does Zach. So does everybody. Everybody has to do better. Or excuse me, everybody has to do a little bit better, and then everybody will look better, if that makes sense. Like, it's a collective effort. So if Wilson starts to play better, it's going to help LaFleur a lot. If the running game can get going, it's going to help LaFleur a lot. It takes every piece of the puzzle. Yep. Christy Marie, she says, what would you accept in a trade for Crowder? We have talked about this a lot, dating back to the off season. I am not trading Crowder. Now, of course, everybody has a price. I think if it got to a second round pick, absolutely, I'm shipping him off. I'm saying sucks to lose you, but there's no way we can pass up on a second round pick, but that's not going to happen. Nobody's going to pay a second round pick for a player who needs a new contract. I think that's the reason why he's still on the team. I think if Joe Douglas had a really good offer on the table, he would have already done the deal. But it's better to keep Crowder, even though it's his last year with the New York Jets, assuming they don't re-sign him. It's better to keep him this year to give Zach a reliable target than to ship him off and to not have one. So it's not crazy of you to say that because there's other people that agree with you trading Crowder. You're not the only person that's suggested that. Me personally, I ain't shipping him off. I'm just not doing it. You guys are loading up the chat, which is just a lot of fun. So I am trying to see Thomas Hewitt. The Jets beat the Titans. The Titans beat the Bills. The Jets are better than the Bills. LMFAO. LOL. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen damn straight. I've seen that on online. And my God, we didn't talk about this. The bye week for the Jets. It was incredible. Dolphins lost. Patriots lost. Bills lost. Seattle lost. Carolina lost. It was like everything. Everything that could have gone the Jets' way in the bye week went their way. So, pretty crazy.
Jamal Adams took a football right off the chin.
Oh,
it was perfect.
That. All right, Rick Fisher. As strange as it sounds, I'm still optimistic this season. I'm optimistic as well because I want to see the team get better. That's my optimism, is I want to see the growth and the improvement. It's a long season. even if they continue to struggle after the bye week, my optimism is still pointing in that direction. I want to see them develop and grow. So even if it takes them all the way up until the last month of the season, if we start to see the wheels turn a little bit, that's going to be exciting, man. We'll all be really encouraged by that. All right. I got to stop going to the chat. I do apologize. There's lots of good takes in here, but we do need to get to our film breakdown. I can go right back to the chat as soon as we are done, and we'll break down the Jets versus the Patriots game as well. So we are going to talk about Bryce Hall, cornerback Bryce Hall, who's doing a great job this season. Don't worry about the interceptions. That is not something that we are worried about too much. They will come eventually. But he's having a really good season. And then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about Zach Wilson. I should say our esteemed colleague, James, is going to talk about him and maybe talk a little bit about the idea that his mechanics are crumbling, or that's the perceived notion. So I'm going to let you go ahead, James. I'm going to fast forward us here. I'm going to pause it.
Sweet.
And I'm also going to add your camera because you're not on here, and we want you on here. Let's do that right quick. Bada bing. Bada boom. Sort of, not quite as fast as I hoped, but we're good. All right, James, why don't you take over, man?
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So thought of just a couple ideas. Obviously, we'll get to the Zach Wilson mechanics. That's probably the hottest topic in Jets world, but kind of a guy we spoke about the last time 2 weeks ago when we did the podcast, and just the secondary has been pretty impressive considering where we got these guys and how young they are. They're doing a really good job. Like you said, the interceptions aren't there, but one step at a time. They aren't exactly giving up touchdowns either, so that's a good thing. Kind of a change in maybe London game was a little bit different, but Kyle Pitts was kind of the main factor in there, and we also kind of had defensive linemen dropping into zones on those touchdowns, which that's a topic for a different day. But Bryce Hall here deserves the recognition. We debated it all offseason. Can he be a cornerback one? And really the conclusion, it seemed like from most people, was we have a cornerback two, and in the draft in 2022 or free agency, let's get someone to pair up with him that can kind of be our cornerback one, and we have a very solid cornerback two. He's kind of trending towards cornerback one territory here, Bryce Hall. And
which is awesome. Which is so freaking great. It's a home run draft pick. If that's the case, man, what a freaking draft pick. Go ahead. Sorry. It's exciting.
It is probably, if you stack up value-wise all of Joe Douglas's picks right now, number one value-wise has to be Bryce Hall. No doubt about it. 2 drafts, but he's got some serious ability. And the reason I picked out these 2 plays is I did a breakdown of his rookie season, and kind of one of the things that I pointed out was man-to-man coverage, sometimes being impatient, and I wanted him to just be able to sit back a little bit more, be a little bit more patient, and I thought he'd get his hands on a whole lot more footballs if that's the case. So this play here, it's 3rd and 19. So we're going to those long 3rd downs, and I won't go through the whole thing, but Bryce Hall's the corner at the top of the screen to the boundary side of the field, and he's going to be playing there's 2 safeties here, but ultimately the Jets play a cover 3. One of them, the corner that's the safety that's next to Bryce Hall, kind of sits in a buzz, meaning he's just going to kind of look for an in or a dig or something to come across the field, and then the safety on the other side. Honestly, I'm not even really sure who that is. He is going to drop into the middle of the field, have the deep third, and then the corner at the bottom of the field, he drops deep third. So Bryce Hall, his responsibility is that deep third going back all the way behind him.
Okay.
And what the wide receiver does, the wide receiver that's just underneath the numbers to the boundary, the number 1, he just runs a vertical route. And if you kind of play it here, you'll see Bryce Hall is going to be beat. Once he gets to the opposite 40, if you stop it, a little more, yep, right about there. I mean, NFL-wise, you're in position, but he's open. You're kind of beat. So you have really two options. One, your option is to get impatient, panic, and you turn your head back to the quarterback to see if the ball's out, where's the football? And then if that happens, the chances are you're going to turn back to the wide receiver. He's going to have the football and he's going to be running into the end zone. So you have to be patient and just keep with it, right? And that's what Bryce Hall is going to do here is he's going to put his head down and he's just going to continue to run with the wide receiver throughout basically the duration of the play. And what he does is now he's just going to wait for the wide receiver to put his hands out, because putting his hands out is going to be the indication to Bryce Hall that the ball is coming, right? I'm putting my hands out because I am looking to catch the football. So what Bryce Hall does, continues to run. Once his hands go up, Bryce Hall puts his hands in between the wide receiver's hands, and it's a pass breakup. And you can see he catches up with him mainly because he never looks back, right? He's not going to essentially, I guess, lack of a better term, give up on the play. When he sees that he's beat around that 40-yard line, and he doesn't have a great start. Like, if you could tell, he kind of goes more to the sideline than deep at first. Mm-hmm. And then the wide receiver kind of just burns him. He takes a little bit of an inside move, and he's beat there. And that right there is, I know it's kind of a little bit blurry because it's so far away.
You can see
but
it.
That right there is probably about as good as it gets in terms of, hey, I'm beat. Let me just keep my eyes on the wide receiver. When he puts his hands up, I'll put my hands up, and I'll break this ball up. And just a tremendous play. This is a 9-7 football game. And at that point in time, 3rd and 19, if they convert that there, we're probably looking at a whole different kind of ball game for the rest of the way.
Yep, and you said it best. Did not panic. Grant Rude's going to throw in here that the ball placement was not great. Let's take a look at ball placement so we can be specific.
Yeah, I wish I had the end zone view, but it really wasn't all that fantastic of a view. So
I don't know, man. The ball is over. It's over Bryce Hall. I would say that if anything, I'm not going to cut you off. I do apologize. I think it's just good recovery by him. More importantly, go ahead though.
Yeah, no, and I think maybe ball play, and Grant, you can tell me if I'm wrong here. Maybe he's looking at it more of if it was thrown over the middle of the field inside, he might have had a better chance at it. But ultimately, if Bryce Hall doesn't recover the way he does, this guy is catching it, and he's probably walking into the end zone for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Grant Rude says wide receivers should be able to keep running inside, which you just said. So very good pickup by you. Where he had him beat, the ball is thrown to the outside. This is why I love doing these little film breakdowns live, because we get other people's input and thoughts, which makes it just that much sweeter. All right, we'll go to the next play. Is that good with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here we go.
All right, last one for Bryce Hall too. I just put two quick plays in here, and this one really easy schematics wise. It's just man to man. Bryce Hall is in press man coverage at the top of the screen on the wide receiver, and just kind of if you're looking like a corner, right? He's got his responsibility of the wide receiver. He knows, okay, I'm in man coverage. There's only one guy out here. He's my responsibility. But kind of what you're thinking if you're Bryce Hall also is take a look at how far away that receiver is from the right tackle. Right? Mm-hmm. There's he's essentially eliminating himself from running any kind of route to the sideline. Because there's just going to be Matt Ryan's not going to have a chance to drop back and then throw a ball timely with anticipation with that kind of split. It's just not going to be, could he go deep? Sure, he could go deep. But then it also makes it easier for Bryce Hall to just cut him off and end up out of bounds. So if you're Bryce Hall, you're thinking here, he's running something inside, right? It's probably, a slant, a dig, a drag or something. Or if they run it, the reason for that split between the right tackle and the wide receiver is just really to get another defender out of the way and ultimately just have more space on the outside there to get some yardage. But Ultimately, Bryce Hall's thinking, hey, this guy, if he's running a route, it's something inside based on the split. So just kind of in the mind of him for a second there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mentioned it earlier, there were a lot of times last year, and they were against good wide receivers like Keenan Allen, Devontae Parker. He kind of had a gauntlet of wide receivers he went up against. But when he was in press man like this, when the wide receiver would kind of give a two-way go, or, a two-way go is basically, just kind of left foot, right foot, putting basically doubt in the corner's head of where he's going to go. Is he going to go inside? Is he going to go outside? Where's he going to kind of release? There were a lot of times where Bryce Hall was in press man coverage and he would try to guess basically. And he'd say, okay, he took 1 or 2 steps upfield. He must be going to the outside. Bryce Hall would turn his hips, and then Devontae Parker or Keenan Allen, they'd shoot inside and he was beat. So there were one of my kind of, not criticisms, but I guess things I wanted him to work on was when he's in press man coverage, just be patient, watch the wide receiver's hips, keep your feet active, and then follow wherever he goes. It's not, obviously I just made it seem like the easiest thing in the world to do. It's not, because it's going 1,000 miles an hour, and these guys are world-class athletes you're trying to cover, and it doesn't help the way the passing offenses now are and the pass interferences now are. It's very hard to cover these guys. But so basically what we'll see here, if you want to roll it, it's a pretty quick play, but it's going to be a slant. But you could see there how right off the snap, Bryce Hall doesn't turn his hips at all. He's like, hey, listen, if you want to dance like that, if you just want to dance, I'll just keep my hips square. I'll put my hands on you, and then wherever you go, whether it's inside or outside, but you could see he's ready for the inside move because he puts the left hand up, and then he just follows him, and he is going to break this pass up. It's going to be pretty much textbook there. Ball up, Bryce gets his left arm over with his right arm, basically around the hip, and the right arm around the hip is just so if this guy catches it, I can tackle him right there. He's not going to go anywhere. So you break it up with the left hand, right hand over the hip, just in case he catches it, you tackle him. But it's just really good patience, and it's something that Bryce Hall, not that he didn't do last year, he just didn't do it consistently, and he's starting to get that better feel of the game where he's very much more patient in at least his man coverage, and he's just getting his hands on a whole bunch of footballs to break them up. This isn't the only one, but it's just something where he did a good job on this play. Kind of one of those where you put it in the textbook for how you should really defend a slant on in press man coverage.
Yeah, and something that I feel like is maybe like a simple take to it, but like he wins this with footwork and technique. Like it's not really like athletic ability necessarily. It's just all technique and footwork, and like you said, the hips. I don't know, proper technique, but I can see it on this play here. Like he's winning this route based on those 2 principles, I would say. Nothing too crazy there. But a very, very good play, especially if what you're saying is true. Last year he was getting beat on the inside. We're seeing those improvements. Mike, any takes from the 2 plays that we got of Bryce Hall, and just your overall thoughts on Brycey boy?
No, it's always awesome to see James go through the tape. I always learn so much, and I would just say, it just blows my mind sometimes just to see the technique, and especially how players develop technique. Young players, I should say. And I think James talked to it. It's Bryce is not afraid to be aggressive, and I think that that quality, really makes or break whether a defensive back can take that next step in terms of being number 1 corner for the team. So I continue to love these sessions because I learned so much. So it's great.
Robbie
Oak is on point.
Yeah, he's got a stray eye there. He was like, wait a second. If you pay attention to the bottom of the screen, there is a complete whiff to press somebody. And he is beat by like 7 yards there. I mean, he was never.
That's a touchdown.
Yeah, it's an easy touchdown. I mean, it was never intended for the ball to go that way, but the guy got completely, cooked there. I have no idea who that guy is, to be honest with you. It might be Eccles, but did Eccles even play?
Yeah, I think it's him. I sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I wish like some of these guys would wear like an arm sleeve or something like that. It'd be way easier. But yeah, I don't know. I kept looking at it, and it seemed like he just might not have known what he was supposed to do, because you could tell the defenders around him at that time have zero. They care nothing about that wide receiver, which makes me think that they knew he was in man coverage against him, and if that's Brandon Eccles, he was the only guy that didn't know.
Oof. I mean, he just really, really whiffed on that one.
Yeah, that was an oh shit moment. Yep.
Yeah, Robbie Oak says it looks like it might be Guidry. That would be surprising if it's old Guidry. I thought I saw a 2 on the left side of his back, but who knows? It's Snoopy, and he is telling us, I can't get excited for these young cornerbacks until they face real competition and consistency. Jets fans have a habit of overrating Jags. I would not quantify Bryce Hall as a Jag based on what we saw last year. Having said that, I do hear what you're saying a little bit. They have faced some good wide receivers though. The Broncos have some solid guys. Cortland Sutton is no slouch. That's an over 1,000 yard receiver. Russell Gage did not play for the Falcons. I apologize. But yeah, no, it's a fair thing to say. They did not have to play AJ Brown. They did not have to play against Julio, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage. So I get the take for sure. I still really like a couple of our guys in the secondary. I really like Guidry. I really like Bryce Hall. So I'm not as bullish on them as you, but I do hear what you're saying. And he says, look at it this way. Imagine if these young cornerbacks were getting beat by these backup wide receivers.
Right.
That would be scary. Yeah. All right. We will move along here. We're going to go to some Zach Wilson analysis, I believe. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, okay. I got some plays here. So, and for It's Snoopy, I mean, yeah, if they were getting torched by the competition that they played so far, that'd be a lot scarier. I feel like there's perspective for everything, right? I think Bryce Hall is the oldest corner on the roster, outside of Justin Hardy. He's mostly the special teams guy, but I think he's the oldest at 23. So you're looking at a bunch of 23, 22-year-old kids where I'm pretty sure the highest drafted corner out of the group was Michael Carter II in the 4th round. So you're looking at 4th, 5th, 6th, and undrafted free agents play in probably right now one of the hardest positions to play in all of football. And you're looking at them just holding their own, doing essentially what they're asked to do and kind of developing over time. I think Michael Carter II is going to be just a really good player for us. So I think perspective is important. Would A.J. Brown and Julio Jones probably do a number? Yeah, sure. But, they're playing against competition, I guess, that is similar in almost competition of what they are. I guess I don't want to say what they are, but guys that are probably picked in the same areas that they were picked in.
Alrighty. We got one comment, and then we will really jump to the Zach Wilson stuff. Gitmo Bob says, any thoughts on the refs blatantly protecting Brady? So if you didn't see the play, there was I think an interception or something like that. And the play was still happening. And the defensive player was like trying to block or engage with Brady. And the ref was literally like getting in the way of the player. Like trying to stop him from blocking him.
You're talking about the Eagles game?
No, I don't think it was. But I'm not really... It doesn't matter who the opponent was. The point is they were legitimately interfering. Yeah, they were like interfering with the play. The thoughts are, I hate Tom Brady. I don't like the officials when they do that stuff. And overall, it's frustrating to see bad refereeing. I'm not an NFL player, so I can say that. I can't get fined. It's very, very frustrating to watch football games where you're just wondering and you're scratching your head like, why the hell are you doing that? So yeah, I don't understand why they were doing that. It seemed ridiculous in the moment when it was happening. So I don't know. I hate Tom Brady. That's the answer. It's always the answer. What do you want for lunch? I hate Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on to Zach Wilson now. James, it's yours.
Cool. All right. So here come the fireworks, right? I think this is here come the fireworks. I think it's got to be the biggest topic, right? The biggest position, newest quarterback here. Things kind of aren't going in certain areas as good as I think we thought we're going to start off with. But hey, listen, it's going to be rocky for a little while, but we just got to kind of, figure out, or Zach has to kind of figure out kind of what he needs to do to tweak his mechanics a little bit. I'll take any kind of criticisms, but this is just my opinion, and I'm pretty much open to what everyone else thinks in terms of what they might be able to do, what he might be able to do to kind of fix it. But this one is going to be a good play. So I kind of started off with a good one because I do think there are mechanical issues here and there. And then I think there are times where it looks perfectly fine, just like it looked like when he was at BYU. It's just he needs to get more comfortable being consistent. So this is the London game, and we're going to do a little comparison between this play, which worked out perfectly, and the next play, which turned out to be the interception that he threw. I think it was the lone interception that he threw in the game. And so the Jets here, you could see Jamison Crowder. He's just motioning out of a bunch. So we'll kind of focus on the bottom half of the field to the boundary. The defense, in my opinion, it's too high. I think they're just in a cover 2, but the corner is playing really like a hard flat. So hard flat just means he's just going to stay in the flat. Sometimes cover 2, you try to bait the corner throw, but it's going to be Keelan Cole coming out of the 2 wide receiver set to the bottom of the screen and going on the corner route. And then I believe that's Corey Davis next to him, who just kind of runs in the flat. And so runs it, to the flat, to the boundary there. And it's basically a smash. I just call it a smash. Anything where you kind of have that high-low read like that, 2 routes to the sideline. I think it's just easy to use that term. So it's a smash concept. You either throw the corner if it's open, or you either throw the flat if the cornerback drops. And Zach does a great job here. He's going to wind up hitting Keelan Cole on the corner route because it's wide open to say the least. But if you play it here, you can kind of see, looks smooth, right? Everything looks fine from Zach. I have the end zone view here, so I'll kind of go mechanics wise. But if you see Keelan Cole sets up that wide receiver, perfectly fine. And Zach is about to let it loose right now, which is a pretty good time to do it. Timing wise, ball's out. There's enough separation. He just needs to throw this ball to the outside, and he does it perfectly, right? We're closer to the sideline. We're away from the safety. He throws it kind of exactly where it needs to be. It's on a line. It gets there before the safety could drive on it. It's a big gain for about 20 or 23 or so. But let's find out kind of why it looks so good, right? Like, why did it look so good from Zach's point of view? And really, what you want to look at is when you're throwing those outside passes. Obviously, first you need to have your footwork, kind of your feet underneath you. But really, what you want to do is you want to open up your hips, right? So if you're throwing to the sideline on the left, you want to make sure your hips are open appropriately so that you can get the ball outside. If your hips aren't open, you're not able to open, your left leg. It's going to be inside. The ball is going to wind up inside. Kind of wherever you point that foot is really going to be where the ball winds up. And so here for Zach, perfect. It's going to be a little play action here. He drops back. And then he gets the weight transfer, right? So the weight transfer for me is important because that's where the drive comes. It's not all arm on this one. Zach is kind of known for here and there trying to do it all arm, not connecting his lower body. But here, perfect. Yeah. Right now, perfect. And you could see that foot is pointing kind of really towards the sideline. He's able to open up his hip there, and he follows through, right? That back leg now, that foot is pointed towards the sideline. That back leg's going to come through, and it's just a perfect drive. He's in control. He's balanced, and the ball is exactly where it needs to be. It almost comes on Keelan Cole a little fast here. He looks surprised. But on the outside shoulder, great, perfect. That's kind of where, Zach kind of looks good when he is feet underneath him. He's driving on the football. He's following through, and his hips get open. Now, the next play, not so much. Right?
Well,
the next play.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's okay. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to thank Jean Jacques for becoming a member of the channel. So thank you so much for the support. Means a lot. Do greatly appreciate you. Hope you leave some comments in here, man. We love to get you involved in the show. So feel free to leave a comment, question, take. So thank you for that. And we've got a comment from a couple of people. So Snoopy, he says, hell of a pass. And he said those chuck plays, what make Zach so dangerous, where he can really just let it loose. I think that's what he's kind of referencing there. And Grant Rude here, he says, he sets his feet, transfers his weight, nice hip comment. He says, steps into his throw, follows through. I could do without his back foot swinging, but otherwise A+ as far as Zach Wilson's mechanics go. And again, this is from somebody who is very, very concerned in regards to the mechanics. And I think that's kind of what you were talking about, James. This next play, we're going to see potentially some poor mechanics. And so I think, and I apologize for interrupting you because you were in the middle of a mojo thing. I think the thing that we need to keep in mind here is that it's not that he can't have proper mechanics, it's that he still is learning and working on this. And I will continue to emphasize, it is up to him, of course, but it's really on our coaches to get him to do this, like on a down-to-down basis and on a game-to-game basis. His fundamentals need to continue to get better and to be more consistent. But that crap takes a lot of time, man, some guys come out of college more ready for that. Mike, any thoughts on the fundamentals before we go to the next look here?
Well, I mean, we just went through the first good play. I was going to hold my comments to see how James breaks down the bad, because I want to know. Like, I'm curious to see what James connects, if he connects. I don't want to pressure you, James, but like connecting the dots where the consistency issue is. Obviously, mechanics. I play golf, so I'm going to use golf as my example to relate to Zach in a very weird way, since I'm not a professional athlete. But with a golf swing similar to a throwing motion, the very littlest things can throw you off. And then even if there is no physical impact to why your swing or your throwing motion's off, if you're in your head, you're in your head, which obviously he has to be given everything going around him. But I was going to see, let's get into the bad and see, James, I'm curious to see if you see anything in mechanics where consistency would be an issue. So I'm kind of I got my popcorn ready, so I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, it's all you, James.
Yeah. Yeah, so it winds up essentially the exact same play, but this time he throws an interception. It's a different formation. Offensively, now he's under center, so it's a play action, different look. Play action under center is difficult because you're taking your eyes off of the defense. Your back is legitimately turned to the defense. Anything could happen in that second and a half. Post snap, that could change the entire picture for you. So it is difficult, but it winds up being exactly the same look in terms of Keelan Cole now is just at the bottom of the screen. He's going to run that corner route. And then we have somebody coming into the flat, I'm pretty sure. somebody coming into the flat. I think it's
That's a left tackle.
That's a left tackle. I think we have someone coming across.
Sure.
Either him or the running back. Either way, but it winds up being that same look of they flood the boundary side with a corner and then a running back or a wide receiver or a tight end coming over into the flat. And it's a too high look by the Falcons. Exact same look. It's a hard flat for the corner. He's going to kind of sit and wait in the flat, and so Keelan Cole is going to be wide open again. He's going to come first off. The ball's late, so that's the first problem. Non-mechanical wise, the ball's late. Probably should be out. Not now, but probably in about a half a set right now. Yeah, this ball needs to be out by now. It's still not out. Too late.
So you can see it. You can see how he's standing already.
Yeah, you can see it's a little. It's not the same as what we just saw. And this. Yep, and this ball winds up, if you just play it, it's picked off obviously, but it's a really bad throw. Like that ball needs to be over the top of that corner and to the sideline. This is a ball that it needs to be completed at some point in his career, hopefully soon, really on a very, very consistent basis. That can't be the result when the play design looks like that. So, for the offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, kind of criticism, there are plays here and probably a lot of them throughout this season where it might give us a different reflection on Mike LaFleur if Zach just executed, the way that the way I know or I think he can execute and throw the football. And so I have the end zone view here. Obviously, you can see it's the exact same play. It just looks a little bit differently. The end result is the same in terms of where guys end up corner-wise. But if you go back just a little bit more, right, and try to get them, I think it's like, keep going just a little bit. And, look at that left foot for right now, right? Left foot, he's going to turn back. But the difference here is going to be he doesn't open his hips or follow through like he did the last time. That left toe is going to wind up pointed more towards the middle of the field. And kind of like Mike was saying with his golf swings, I'm not a golfer. I stink at it. It's
terrible. Terrible golf. I hate golf, and it's BS that he's good at it and that I can't play golf. By the way, fun fact. Fun fact, Mike is really good at golf, actually. That's the funny thing.
Like how good? How good are we talking?
I'll let him speak for himself.
I played in high school for the team and then for college, and I would say at my best I was around a 3 handicap, something like that.
So talk to me like I'm 5 years old and never played golf. Like if you were to go, what would your score be?
If I was shooting 18, I'd say my best score on 18 was 72. I'm usually somewhere around mid to high 70s, 78, something like that.
Why don't you should golf professionally? Isn't that like a professional score?
No, because I'm not playing 5-star courses, and I'm also not playing from the pro tees. So
that is one thing. That is one thing that I do know about golf is that there are different difficulties in courses, and Mike is right. All right, we'll go back to football.
Sorry, I had to know. But like Mike's perfect stop right there.
Yeah,
that foot is pointed more towards that middle of the field, right near that hash.
Yep.
It looks like this ball is going to be thrown more inside, right? If you were just looking at this, you'd think, oh, hey, he's probably throwing some kind of curl that's coming towards the numbers of some sort. You would not think, based on this look here, that he plans on throwing this ball over and to the sideline. And it's exactly where the ball winds up. It winds up inside. Right, that foot is it's just not where it needs to be, and the follow through isn't really where it needs to be. That back leg, kind of like Grant was saying before, that swing with the back foot. Really, you kind of really got to bring the drive after the drive and the weight transfer. That back leg kind of has to really come through and not be kind of just swinging around back there, and that's the result that you get. So it really starts out fine. It's just when he takes that back step, right, that last step in his drop, he really needs to open those hips, get the ball to the outside, and ultimately have the weight transfer to drive it where it needs to be. So it looks. Go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So the left leg, the front leg, it looks like a little awkward too. Like on this throw, he's not. It's like he's leading with his left foot, but it's like there's no weight transfer, right? Like it just looks weird.
Yeah.
Because it's like completely straight. There's no bend in the knee. There's no. It just looks. It looks a little funny. I know we're talking about the foot, but it doesn't even really look like he transferred his weight onto that leg.
You can tell that the drive really just isn't there. Like I wrote in my notes, like I wrote down drive. Like I wrote down it's just not really there in terms of once you hit that your back foot or your last step in your drop, that weight needs to transfer and you need to drive the football. And it really kind of shows up in what your follow through looks like. The follow through wasn't there. The hips weren't open. The ball's inside, and we saw it when he opens his hips and he drives. It looks really pretty to me. And so the consistency factor there in terms of it's the same game, the same play. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent with his mechanics there. Yeah, he has that tendency. Jeremy's right to rely on his arm sometimes too much and say, I could probably get it out there by doing this. And when the lower body's not connected to the upper portion, sometimes it's just not going to work out. Yeah.
And one thing I'll talk a little bit about, because I'm not an expert at all by any means, but I will say that one thing that I've heard from Tom Brady, the man that I hate so much, he works on his fundamentals like a crackhead still to this day. Like that's the thing that he focuses on so much. Because once those, it doesn't matter who you are. Like if Tom Brady's still working on his mechanics at age 40 plus, you've got to imagine that's like a critical aspect. And it's one of those things like we talked about, like you can fall out of your mechanics. Like if you're a golfer, you can quickly fall out of those if you're not continuously practicing those and working really, really hard to maintain. So I think as time moves on, we need to see better mechanics. And again, I think we will. I'm pretty confident still in Zach Wilson as a quarterback. It's just like everybody. Everybody needs to improve. So, all right, we got another play here.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. Like this kind of stuff has to end up basically something that he could do in his sleep. And kind of one of the ways you can do that, they say sometimes like it takes 1,000 times to do something to kind of master it. But obviously you have to consistently do it. But, even if it's just putting a mirror in front of you, no football, and it's just, you don't even need the football. It's just dropping back, working on that footwork. But it does take time. So, and you're right. Tom Brady is probably one of the best, mechanically. Obviously he's the best to probably ever play, but mechanically he's just always so sound. The ball's always out. So here again, so we're going to do another comparison. It's the same game, the Titans game. So there's two plays here and it's very simple. Bottom of the screen, Corey Davis runs an out. This time it looks perfect from Zach. He does exactly what he needs to do. It looks smooth. He looks comfortable. He mentioned that, he has to be less robotic and not aim as much. And here he looks completely comfortable and the ball is right where it needs to be. Kind of one of the points that I haven't really made yet because I haven't really gotten the opportunity. So I'll do it here. But sometimes the term that you just need to use is just put it on him, right? And when I say just put it on him, I mean just throw it to him. And that sounds ridiculous to say. But there are some times where you try to lead the guy, you try to get it on the outside shoulder, you try to, fit it in a window, and you kind of have to aim in a certain spot, kind of an aim small, miss small kind of mentality. when they're that wide open like Corey Davis is, just put it on his chest. There's no aiming that you need to do. Just simply put it on him. Don't put it high and outside. Don't put it anywhere else but the middle of his chest. And that's kind of a way just to make it or simplify it in my head. And he just puts it right on him there. And the end zone view kind of shows his footwork is perfect here. So he's under center, right? So you have a 5-step drop here. So it'll be 5 steps. The left leg is the second to last step. And that's one of the most important steps as a quarterback when you're in your drop and there's no hitch, right? So a hitch would be if your last foot in the drop, your last step in your drop, hits the turf, and then you basically hitched forward one more time. Like here, you can't do it because it's a 10-yard out. The timing would be way off. That back leg has to hit and the ball has to come out. But you can see here, his hips are open, right? So we have the hips open. We have the weight transfer. We have right there is perfect, right? We have a little bit of a bend in that knee, so it's not a straight leg.
Yeah.
And then he completes his follow through, and the ball is exactly where it needs to be, right? Perfect. I mean, the back leg's still a little lagging, whatever. I don't think that's, compared to some of the other stuff that I saw, that's really good. That back leg ends up kind of coming forward. But exactly where it needs to be, it's weight transfer, back leg hits, kind of, and Mike used a golf analogy. I'll use a baseball hitter, right? The baseball hitter, as you're waiting, right, for the pitch, if you're in your stance, you kind of, as the pitch comes, you give that lean backwards so that you can end up transferring your weight forward when you ultimately decide that you're going to swing at the ball to get the power behind the ball. And so it's kind of very similar to a hitter in the box. And so Zach here, perfect. If he on Sunday, if he throws an out route and this is the look he gets, this is exactly how it should look. He looks completely comfortable, and the ball is right on the money. And I know it's a 10-yard out, but I kind of got a lot of crap on Twitter when I posted a throw that he made at BYU that I thought was really good in terms of his mechanics. And then people kind of got on me because he struggles with the shorter stuff, and that's what we should be looking at instead.
This James, was go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, no. So, obviously golf doesn't deal with this, but my understanding, my dad loves baseball. He's a huge Mets fan. And obviously, watching football for all my adult life, when you're throwing with your arm rather than through your torso, obviously those are the typical trademarks. Correct me if I'm wrong, James. Those are the typical trademarks of a gunslinger type of quarterback, right? So, it's not that if they don't get the time to throw through the right mechanics, they wouldn't. It's the fact that they're usually on the run. They're kind of dancing around. They might need to break out or roll out at any given moment, in which case, especially when they're young, there's a lot of confidence in the fact that they feel that they can make the throw even without their full body, driving it through, as you've kind of gone through in multiple takes here. In which case, what we've seen from Zach is although we don't want him to necessarily be a gunslinger, although that's not necessarily a bad term. I mean, at times Pat Mahomes is a gunslinger quarterback. Do you feel like the possibility of him having to roll out versus Brady, probably the likelihood of Zach in his head thinking where I might need to run in any given second, in which case where I place my feet in terms of prioritizing that might be different than a Tom Brady, who the likelihood of him thinking he's going to roll out is much less. How much does that play into what you're saying?
Yeah. So you're right. With Tom Brady, he's not going to go anywhere. And so for him, it either happens with his footwork and on time, or it's not going to happen really at all. For Zach, I don't want to say the mechanics are like a total issue that can't be fixed. It's just he has a different mentality on some plays where you're right. I think he thinks in some instances, he can get the ball to that player, whether it's most likely in the short or intermediate area, by kind of just flicking his wrist and letting it go, and all's going to be good. And so it does play a factor, I think, sometimes in terms of he's just thinking, how do I get it there? He's rushing, and then he's forgetting about the bottom half. And you're right, that has a factor into, I guess, his mentality on what he actually believes that he can do, because he can do a lot. He has that arm talent. That term gets thrown around, all the time. He has that arm talent, that gunslinger mentality of, I'll be fine if I just, boom, it's just out there, just a quick flick of the wrist, and everything is good. And we see that hurt him and hurt the Jets, and especially the Falcons game, because I mean, I don't have the play here, but that actually, I'll say the Titans and the Falcons game, because the Titans game, he could have ended the game. I think John mentioned it before with Ryan Griffin. If he would have just set his feet and gave it time and then let the ball go, because Ryan Griffin was wide open. Zach saw him. The back leg was kind of wide, and outside of his back shoulder, and he was just like, hey, I'll just flick this thing over here. He got no weight transfer behind it, and the ball died at Ryan Griffin's feet. And then the same thing happened with Jamison Crowder, where he was like, hey, it's just a wide receiver screen, right? That's probably what he's thinking in his head. It's just a wide receiver screen. He's wide open. I'll just catch the shotgun snap. And he really didn't even turn his hips at all. He just kind of turned his upper body and just kind of flung it almost a little bit sidearm, and it died right at Jamison Crowder's feet. That Jamison Crowder screen or swing pass was probably the most frustrating one that I've seen so far on tape, probably over even all the interceptions he threw against the Patriots, just because it just seemed like a rush for no reason at all. And he just was in his own head that, hey, I can make that throw with my eyes closed. Let me just do it, my way. And he'll learn from that. But yeah, that mentality absolutely kind of, I think, has a factor in sometimes his mechanics go awry and there's a little bit of an inconsistency.
Yeah. And the way he described it himself is that he gets almost like too excited on the field, and like, you might be right. He might be just being lazy, like mentally, like just saying like, okay, yeah, let me just get this out real quick. But it could also be he sees a wide open guy, and like everything speeds up. Like he wants to get the ball out right then and there with no real thought of making sure that all of the stuff is where his fundamentals need to be. That could be also an issue. Is like he's going too quick in his own head, and rushing through the throw. So that could be also the case. We do have a question here from Grant, and then we will finish up this film because it is getting late and we need to talk about the Jets-Patriots game. He says, what do you think of his feet running parallel to the yard marker? And I had actually watched it back. And if you see, and you can talk on it, but right about here, it's like his feet are side by side almost.
Right. So so his feet, what do you mean side by side?
So I think what he's saying is they are parallel to the yard marker. That's his take.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So really, like, you actually stopped it in a perfect spot there. So what it should look like when you're in that spot is you should be able to draw an L starting at the top left foot down to the back right foot and then across, right? So it should be an L shaped of how it is. So you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
So you draw the L there, especially, obviously when you're throwing to the left, it should look like the L there. So I think he's fine where he is. I mean, could the back right leg be a little bit more behind him? Maybe. But I think that's kind of nitpicking a little bit more. I think kind of where he is right here is where he kind of should be, because I think Grant also made a point of maybe he might be too wide. I think he's wide at this moment here, but I think it's just kind of the progression of it in terms of when you don't have that hitch step, and you're driving off the back leg, he's just generating kind of power forward. But I think here he's comfortable because that front left leg, it does look a tad bent at the knee, even though it's very slight. You could see his thigh kind of comes across and then his foot goes down. So I think he's fine where he's at.
All right, perfect.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
No, I think you're fine. And I think he mostly just wanted to hear your take on it, not necessarily that he disagrees. All right, we will wrap up the film with this last play. I believe that's the last play, right? This one?
This one's the last play. And pretty straightforward. We could just go right to the end zone view here. But this is the exact same play as the Corey Davis one. It's just a 10-yard out by Jamison Crowder to the left-hand side. Now I think he's very parallel. Like if we're talking about to the yard marker or to the maybe like the goalpost. But you could see here he doesn't have his foot, that last step in his drop hit and the ball immediately comes out. He kind of almost hitches because he doesn't open his hips. So he needs to take that extra step to now open his hips one more time and then get the ball out. And what happens, just like we saw on the interception, that ball is inside, and that could have very well been a pick six right there.
Yeah.
And the mechanics, I feel like it's very clear to see that it does not look, and yeah, does Morgan Moses get kind of pushed back into him? Yes, he does for sure. But I think if Zach has his footwork look like what it looked like to Corey Davis, I think the ball's out before that defender can even push Morgan Moses back into his feet. You can see there's that extra jump step to open his hips, and it forces the ball to be late. It forces it to be inside because he just couldn't get his hips around in time. There's no follow through, mainly, I guess, because of Morgan Moses with the follow through. So it winds up kind of being an all arm kind of thing. But that rep, the same exact throw, just doesn't look like what it looked like to Corey Davis. And so he can do it. Zach can do it. He'll get there. Just right now, I think there's a lot going through his head. He just needs to slow it all down and get back to the basics.
Yeah, if it were, and again, I'm not an expert. I'm a fan. This is a fan's perspective. So if you don't agree, all good, guys. I will say though, like maybe he should have re-established like a better spot to throw. It looked like he could have moved to the left and reset to maybe fire the ball. He is getting Moses pretty much in his lap here.
Yeah.
So it may have been smarter to not force the ball out here because of that and not being able to step into it like we talked about.
Yeah.
But maybe like relocating in the pocket, stepping to the left here, keeping his feet under him. And it looks like there's a tight end there in the flat that he could have checked the ball down to. So those are the little nuances that are going to take time and reps. I mean, we hear it all the time. It's not just quarterbacks. You have to play in the NFL and you have to learn by making mistakes. It's no different for students in an elementary school. I constantly am telling my students, it's okay to make a mistake. This is how you learn. Like, you don't learn from doing it perfectly, and you don't learn by being perfect at everything. You have to learn through trial of errors. So, all right. Awesome job as always, James. Thank you very, very much. I really, really do enjoy the film breakdowns. They are a ton of fun. So, all right, gentlemen, we're going to get right to the end of our show here. We're going to talk about this Jets Patriots game that we have coming up, and I am so glad that we have a game. It might not go well, but I am glad that we have football after that bye week. It felt like the bye week was 2 weeks long. And I guess in a way it is, because by the time they play on Sunday, it'll end up being 2 weeks. I guess I should say it felt like 3 weeks. My bad. We'll just go ahead and just start talking about thoughts on this matchup. How do we see the game playing out? Score predictions, fine. And maybe some X factors, like things that need to go our way to be able to win. It's you first, Mikey.
I kind of showed my cards at the beginning when we had the mailbag, but I as much as Belichick's going to bring a different look. He has tape. I'm going to flip the script and say Robert Saleh spent the last 2 weeks in the film room and with Mike LaFleur and Jeff. And I think they're going to bring something different either. I gotta believe that. I can't automatically go into this week thinking they're going to rinse and repeat in the hopes that something different happens, which would be the recipe for insanity. So, I'm going to just say that. Now, with that, I do think that they saw the tape and they saw the run game is an element that works against the Patriots. And I really think Michael Carter will be a big part. Tevin Coleman will be a big part. Probably we'll see a little bit of Ty Johnson rotated in there. And then, and I know, a different take from you guys. I think they're going to try to diversify the ball around. It's not going to be, I can't imagine that they're going to try to just force the Corey Davis time and time again. And I think that there will be other players. If we do win this game, there will be other players or other receivers, I should say, who make the big play happen. And, I'm going to go with Crowder. Someone could easily say it's Elijah Moore. Someone else could easily say it's, Mims, perhaps, or
Anybody.
even Berrios, because Berrios had a good game in the last Patriot game. Let's not overlook that fact. But I just think it's going to be a diversified set of opportunities, which is a good thing. On defense, I think defense just needs to keep doing what they have been, which is, keep hope that the offense keeps them off the field and not putting them back on the field in 3 and outs. And more importantly, I think our defense is a little bit more higher power. Of course, I don't know what the injuries are going into the game. Obviously, still a couple of days of practice left. But if we're not injury, if we're not riddled, thank you, that was the word I was looking for. If we're not injury riddled, particularly with CJ, I think our defense will be even more high powered because we're more cohesive on the D line, particularly than what we were in that first Patriots game. At least that's my take on that. So I'm actually, defense just has to keep doing what they have been doing. And I'm just hoping that the offense can give them a bigger break than what we've been able to do in the first half. Like I said, I understand different takes. We are on the road. I think we play better on the road. I've always thought that with the Jets team. Every home game that I've gone to, we've usually lost. So I'm always on the side that we play better in other people's stadiums. So that's part of our Jet culture. So that part of it doesn't faze me. I think it really comes down to whether the 2 weeks, paid dividends for film or it didn't. So we'll see.
I hope to God it did. You got a score for me here?
Come back to me. I haven't really thought about the score, to be honest with you.
That's okay. I'd rather you think about it than just force one out. James, any thoughts on what's going on with the Jets versus Pats?
Yeah, so I'll focus on the defense here. I thought they did a great job the first time around against the Patriots. So whatever kind of work there, you definitely want to mix those kind of things in. Obviously, the Patriots will watch the film and they'll try to do different things to counteract that. But the Patriots kind of seem right like the Patriots offense. They're not very explosive, right? There's not a lot of big plays. It's Mac Jones kind of just dropping back, dink and dunk kind of, he doesn't have a high yards per attempt on the season. And so he's looking for those short passes. So I would like to see the Jets adjust from kind of what they did against Atlanta, where Matt Ryan just kind of dropped back and just was thinking and dunking down the field until a big play opened up across the middle with a tight end. The Jets went with a lot of zone blitzes, and there was a lot of guys open kind of early in the play there for small chunks that wound up turning into big drives. So my biggest thing there is if CJ Mosley can't go, Jamie Sherwood's going to have a big responsibility for a rookie, and I like him as a player. It's a lot to ask at that moment in time. I think Coach Saleh today said if CJ can't go, Jamie gets the green dot, which means he's in charge out there, which means he's got to make sure everybody's lined up. He's the quarterback of the defense, and that's a lot to put on the rookie. So if that's the case, it could be a long day. I believe in him. I'm not saying I don't believe in him, but I hope he would prove me wrong that he would have a big day and maybe next to Quincy Williams and things like that. But I hope the defense comes out, and my main thing for the offense is give them a breather, right? Even if it's just 3 points here and there, you got to create or sustain drives. And PSA to the Jets here. I mean, there's been a ton of bulletin board material for them. I don't know if you guys have seen the NBC Sports of Boston, the co-host, they made like a song and they sang it, and it was so cringeworthy I turned it off. But essentially what it was that they're playing the guitar all sad on set that the Patriots are 2-4, but then they all of a sudden get very excited because it's Jets week, so they're going to win this week, right? So they create this entire song about how they're upset being 2-4, but everyone rejoice, we're playing the Jets this week. I would have had that song like on a reel in the meeting room, because quite frankly, right now, everywhere you look, the Jets are the victim of some kind of statistic that people are trying to point out. We get it. Derrick Henry has 10 touchdowns and we only have 7, but we beat the Titans. So maybe don't put the stat out. Chris Herndon has 1 touchdown. The Jets tight ends have 0. Chris Herndon legitimately has 1 catch on the season. These things are piling up where even if there is a worse team out there than the Jets, the shade, the jokes will always be thrown toward us until we change it. So hopefully, Saleh, my other piece of this is off the field, bring in the motivation for these guys, and let's get a win in Foxborough. I mean, I really don't know if it's going to happen, but obviously if I was in the locker room, I wouldn't be talking like that. So score prediction, I'm going to go 2017 Pats. I think it's a very close game. I think it's probably a last-second field goal. Nick Folk hits that.
I said 1 point different. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a close game, but I'm looking for Robert Saleh to have these guys flying around out of the bye week.
You said 20-17 or 27-17?
20-17.
Oh, okay. I misheard you then. Okay, yeah. And you said Patriots win?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you made good points there. I keep saying it, and I'm going to continue to beat the drum. This coaching staff, I don't care that we're the youngest team in football. Eventually, during the course of this season, we need to be competitive. And I don't know if it's going to be this week. I have us losing this game on the road. It's going to be hard to win this football game. 27-16 is what I have. And I'm mostly hoping that we just... I don't want to see all the turnovers. I hope Zach has a decent game. It's going to be a hard one to win. I think that if we can get the running game going, and if we can get some points early in the game like Mike was talking about, I think that could lead to some success in this football game. When I say that the Patriots will win does not mean that the Jets don't have a chance. They, of course, have a chance in this game. And I'm with you, James. The coaching staff needs to get these guys not just ready to play, but also like emotionally. Like they need to feel that, they need to be pissed off. Like, I mean, it's like... how could you not how could you not take it personally as a player that, you're being mocked? Like that's a big time slap in the face for any professional athlete. So I hope to be wrong. I hope it's a closer game than what I'm predicting. If Mosley is out, it could even be worse. It could be bad. Jamie Sherwood, like you said, I like him too. I do not like the idea of him leading the defense. I think that's a scary proposition. So yeah, that's my score prediction. I think that if we're going to win the game, we need to get some turnovers. That's going to be hard to do because they check the ball down a lot, as we've talked a lot about. The Patriots do not take a lot of risks. They don't throw the ball down the field a ton. We still have 0 interceptions on the season. And overall, Belichick, he does a great job of minimizing mistakes. So forcing mistakes, it's going to be really, really hard to do. So that's why I have the score the way it is. If we can get some points on the board in the first half, though, I give us a shot in the football game. All right, let's see what you guys got. Jeremy Cravat, he says, just as long as we are competitive, winning will come in time. Patience, patience, patience. I do not hate that take at all. I think that's fine with me. Vern says 24-10 Patriots win. First time I've ever predicted a loss here this year. Okay. I have predicted several losses, so you're a true fan, no doubt about it. Robbie Oak says 24-16 Pats with a sad face. Frankie does point out Marcus May coming back as a plus. We'll see. He probably will be back. That seems to be the report. I also thought that Salah had said that Davis might be back as well. It looked like they were both, on the upswing as far as playing this upcoming week. Christy Marie, don't worry, guys. The Jets had a great week of practice. I don't want to hear anything about practice. My God.
Talking about
All
practice.
right. Yeah, right. All right, guys, that's going to do it. And gals, of course. That's going to do it for this show. Thank you so much for watching episode 35 of the Wednesday Night Podcast. Thank you so much. Hope you guys leave a like. Any last words from you, James and Mike? James, you first.
Yeah, no, enjoy the game, and we'll see what happens. But just be competitive and enjoy the game. Have a beer, have a drink, relax, and enjoy your Sunday.
Mike, you got anything?
So big thanks to James for rolling us through the film tape. It's always awesome.
Yeah.
Learned so much. Good chatting with you guys. And go Jets. Let's get a win.
Let's get a win. All righty. That'll do it. Go Jets. Thank you guys so much. Hope to see you on the Sunday night the Sunday night post-game show. Go Jets. And we will see you guys next time, as long as I can find this. I always struggle with this. Okay, here we go. Have a good night, guys. Peace.